Quorum call.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 members present, the House is now in session. The clerk will read a journal from the previous day.
Annapolis, Maryland, March the 1st, 2021.
Recognizing the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much to be considered the reading of the journal from the previous day.
So ordered, petition, memorials, and other papers. Message from the Senate, consent calendar, Senate bills introduced in the House. The clerk will read the first bill and committee assignment.
Senate Bill 3, Senator Griffith, Health and Government Operations.
Recognizing the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the reading of Senate Bill 3 be considered the reading for all the bills on the calendar.
Hearing no objections, the bills are read the first time and referred to the appropriate committees. Quorum call.
Madam Speaker.
Clerk will take the call. There being 138 members present, the House is still in session. Calendar of third reading, House Bills number 33. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 2, Maryland Environmental Service Reform Act of 2021.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 129 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 2, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 13, Influence on Collective Bargaining, Prohibition on Use of Public Funds.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 97 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 13, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 185, Alcoholic Beverages on Sales, Required Multiple Purchases.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 137 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 185, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 518, Public Libraries, Electronic Literary Product Licenses, Access.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 138 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 518, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 630, Primary and Secondary Education, School District Energy Use Policy and Study.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Recognizing the majority whip.
Thank you, Minority Whip, but I look forward to being the Majority Whip one day. Would the floor leader please rise? Hello? He's in the house, over in the annex. All right, we'll wait for his, whoever it is, picture to show up. Oh, I don't like seeing myself. Put the other person up.
Morning. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but see me. Change that.
Let me remind members, this is live streamed.
Yes, nothing like talking to yourself. You're right. I know we all hate our own voices.
Will the
and
minority whip
pictures.
please ask her question?
Yes, I was waiting for my friend on the other side of the camera. Can you tell us, there was quite a bit of unfavorable testimony. Can you tell us if that was addressed in any amendments?
There was actually only one unfavorable testimony that was submitted, and that is addressed. There is no requirement here for school districts to actually change their policies. It's literally just that they have to have one, and they have to report information, frankly, that what we heard from the Maryland Association of Boards of Ed, school districts already have. So MABE worked closely with us and had no opposition to this.
And Anne Arundel County Schools, they were opposed according to the committee testimony I'm seeing?
They were opposed, but their opposition was, again, sort of based on a false interpretation of the bill. They said that we were going to mandate that they would have to change the way they do their whole energy and the way they build their schools. There's nothing in this bill that would require that. Again, this is about reporting and a study that we're asking to look at the possibility of expanding the use of net zero schools, but trying to come up with some innovative financing mechanisms, but there's no requirement here for school districts to change any of their construction methods or their energy purchases.
So this is just a study?
No, the bill would require that school districts publish their energy policy so that members of the public can see it, and that they actually report a lot of the data that they're getting already, but is not made publicly available.
And did you take into consideration that schools have been closed for an entire year? That will certainly have a big impact on the energy use reporting that you asked for.
So it would have an impact potentially on the amount of energy they're using, but it would still, the same kind of information would still be available.
Yeah, but the data will be wrong because schools will be closed for a year. I mean, I would hope they've turned the heat down and the air conditioning off and reduced lights, and, you know, students haven't been there for an entire year. Would that be correct?
I would assume so. Again, this is, an opportunity for members of the public. We think this also, again, in working with MABE, we think this is a real opportunity for school boards and school administration also to better understand their energy usage so that they can make improvements and save consumers money and their taxpayers money. That's the ultimate hope here, is that by making this data more public, there can be a more robust conversation among local jurisdictions about their energy usage and how they can improve it.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. I think it's over-prescriptive. I'd rather see our energy spent getting kids back in school rather than studying the energy we're not using while they're away. I'll be voting no.
Is there any further debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 99 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 630, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 878, Bay Restoration Fund, authorize uses and county authority to incur indebtedness.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 878, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk. Calendar of third reading, Senate Bills number 2. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 1, historically black colleges and universities funding.
It's on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Is there any debate? Not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 120 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 1, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Calendar of third reading, House Bills number 35. The clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 651, Education, Educational Interpreter Certification Requirements.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? The gentleman from Montgomery in the annex. Apparently, the gentleman was testing his budget. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 651, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 800, Natural Resources, Waters of the State, Mobile Locator Application.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 800, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 992, Natural Resources, Maryland Environmental Trust, Trustees.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 137 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 992, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 1086, Maryland Tax Credit Evaluation Act, alterations.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 137 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1086, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 1124, Higher Education, Richard W. Collins III, Leadership with Honor Scholarship, Bowie State.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 137 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1124, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 1211, Economic Development, Maryland Technology Development Corporation, Pre-Seed Builder Fund.
Is on third
Madam
reading
Speaker.
and final passage. Is there any debate? Recognizing
Just a quick question.
recognizing the gentleman from Baltimore County.
Sorry about that. Thank you. Quick question for the floor leader for this.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. This looks like a great bill, and I like it. But was there any discussion on holding off on this bill like a year or two down the road after coronavirus? Because I saw there was a significant. I guess it goes up $1 million, I think, this year, but then it goes up to 7 point.
It makes significant new investments in the pre-seed builder fund. I think part of our reasoning in moving it now is we've got to help resuscitate the economy, and one of the ways we can do that is by investing in these early stage companies. This fund is particularly targeted at MBEs and businesses in rural areas that have traditionally had difficult accessing pre-seed capital.
No, I appreciate it. And like I said, I think it's a great bill, but I just, with all the relief money and some other funding, I just worry about some of the spending. But thank you, I appreciate it.
Sure.
Is there any further debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 130 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1211, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 1252, income tax credits for preceptors in areas with health care workforce shortages.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call.
Madam Speaker. House Bill 1086 to read, please.
No,
All right.
it's not. There being 138 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1252, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Special order calendar number 38. The clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 128, criminal law, hate crimes, protected groups, and penalties. Favor report is amended, adopted.
The gentleman from Baltimore County in the annex.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have an amendment at the desk 703125/1.
Amendment number 1.
Waive the reading of amendment.
So ordered.
I'm here today to testify on this bill, and it's a simple bill. It's just want to add in police into the hate crime. I am a family member of a lot of police officers in my family. We are a Leo family. And I hear the horror stories, what happens, the hate that's going towards these police officers. And we're here today to try to fix some of the problems that we're having with interactions between police officers and people that are breaking the law. I think that this needs to be put into law, and we need to start over again. Let's start respecting our police. Let them do their job. I know for a fact that the people that I've talked to, my police officer friends, they want to go to work. They don't want to take and have to arrest anyone or go on the ground and wrestle or hurt someone or pull their weapon. That's not what they're there for. They're there to protect us if we need it. You know, we're talking about police officers. They'll step out in front of a bullet to save us. Think about that. A police officer would step out in front of a bullet to protect anyone in this house. That's a special person. That's why I add this amendment, and I thank you so much.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, I would urge you to reject this amendment. Frankly, it's totally off topic from the bill. All the bill does is it authorizes judges to make as a condition of a hate crime sentence, so this is someone convicted of a hate crime, that someone takes part in an anti-bias education. It has been shown that these programs reduce recidivism for hate crimes, and so attempting to, on the floor at the last second, add in a pretty major expansion to the purpose of the hate crimes statute which is to protect people from criminal offenses on the basis that they're being targeted by some immutable factor for which we have a history of these types of offenses. I think this is totally inappropriate. I'm not sure exactly why this bill was chosen as a vehicle for this sort of shenanigans. And lastly, I would just leave you with, we've had separate bills on this topic, and each time the concept of adding police to the hate crimes law has been rejected. So let's move on with the day. Thank you. Please reject this amendment.
Madam Speaker?
Maker of the motion.
Yes, Madam Speaker. We need to have conversations, not tear people down. Shenanigans? I'm not here with no shenanigans. This is coming from my heart. This bill, we need to talk about what's happening. I know we're talking about police reform today, and it's something we need to also include, is to make people understand that these police officers are not out here to do bodily harm. We need to teach. I know from experience, we either fight or flight. I understand that. And that's why a lot of these things happen. Someone gets a broken tail light, they get pulled over and wind up, they get thrown to the ground. Nobody wants to see that happen, that's for sure. I would just press this amendment, and I would ask this body to accept this amendment, and thank you so much.
Floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This amendment has nothing to do with the bill, which is again simply to just allow judges to put hate crimes and anti-bias education into a defendant's sentence. So please reject this amendment. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Roll call, Madam Speaker.
Roll call.
Madam Speaker,
Clerk can make the call. The amendment fails. Any other amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Quorum call.
Madam Speaker,
Calendar of third reading. Oh, take the call. There are 138 members present. The House is still in session. Calendar of third reading, House Bills number 34. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 180, juvenile sexting.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 131 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 180, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 216, higher education, tuition exemption for foster care recipients and homeless youth, alterations and reports.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 139 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 216, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 231, Crimes, Mitigation and Defense, Race, Color, National Origin, Sex, Gender, Identity, or Sexual Orientation.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 231, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 252, Tax Sales, Owner-Occupied Residential Property.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 139 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 252, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 280, Maryland Recycling Act, Recyclable Materials and Resource Recovery Facilities, alterations.
Is on third reading and final passage. Recognizing the minority whip.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. In reading the fiscal note on this bill, it will increase the cost of disposing of household waste for people who live in Baltimore County. Therefore, I will be voting against this bill.
Okay. Is there any further debate?
Yeah, Madam Speaker.
Gentleman from Carl.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just had a quick question for the floor leader.
Yes, Delegate.
Hi, how are you?
The bat phone's ringing. Hold on.
Does the bill call for the recycling at all of solar panels when they expire? Because after about 20 to 25 years, there are millions of solar panels in the U.S. every year, many millions, and of course in this state, hundreds of thousands that have to be put somewhere. Currently, I don't think there is a recycling program for that, is there?
This bill does not address that, Delegate.
So, but why don't we address that too? Because obviously that's an enormous amount of waste.
Certainly, next year you can bring a bill, but this bill has to do with the accurate accounting for recycling, and incinerator ash has been considered a recycled material when it actually is not.
No
problem.
It's fair enough. I was just looking at the title because the title says Maryland Recycling Act, so it's very virtuous. So I just thought we should include other things too that are indeed not renewable and do end up in landfills.
That's a great idea.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Is there any further debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 98 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 280, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 422, Minority Participation in the Alcoholic Beverages Industry, study.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 422, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Special order calendar number 39. The clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 260, Courts, Jury Service, Disqualification, favorable report adopted.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing gentleman from Frederick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have an amendment at the desk. The number is 313-3221.
Amendment number 1.
Move so much be considered the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
So this amendment strikes pending charges from the bill, and I'll explain why we put that in there. So it occurred to me, and I actually did have an opportunity to speak with my friend from Judiciary last night and explain the merits of my concern. And the concerns are the following. So by allowing a potential juror who has pending charges against them to be questioned about those pending charges by a defense attorney, I believe could raise some self-incrimination concerns. And I'll explain that process. So when you have pending charges, you have the right to not say anything. You have the right to not incriminate yourself. Whereas when you are a potential juror, the defendant and the defendant's attorney has the right to ask questions about your pending charges. So if you think about it, you'll have a potential juror sitting in a juror box during voir dire. The judge will ask that potential juror, do you have any pending charges? The juror will say, yes, I do. And now they're in a situation where you have a judge, a prosecutor, and a defense attorney grilling a potential juror about their pending charges without their attorney present. That could raise some real concerns. This isn't about the merits of the bill. This is just a technical concern. And I think while we're looking out for the interests of the defendant, we should also be looking out for the interests of the jurors as well. And I move the amendment.
Floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to the good delegate from Frederick. We were able to discuss these concerns at length. I would ask the body to resist this amendment for two main reasons. One, Maryland is a very unique state. Many states around the country do not actually have the ability to have citizen-charged cases. So today, right now, any delegate could go down to the commissioner's office right now here in Annapolis and file to have charges against me that would then disqualify me from the jury service pool. The other thing I would mention to the good delegate, in Davison versus State, this issue came up, and it was ruled that the self-incrimination issue that he is speaking of did not have an impact on the case at hand. I would also state that in the jury selection process, on the first part where a judge can ask questions and disqualify people for cause, and then during voir dire, when both the state's attorney and the defense attorney can bring up preemptory challenges, they would ask if you have a pending charge. Right now on Maryland Case Search or anywhere, the fact that you have a charge would not then self-incriminate you. If you pulled up Case Search right now, any pending charge against you is already public knowledge. The public knowledge that you have a case against you is not self-incrimination. I would ask the body to resist this amendment.
The maker of the motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So the concern would be this. You have this individual that does not have their attorney present. The judge or the defense attorney asks him a question, and then he blurts out important information about his pending case. You know, they say something to the effect of, sir, I understand you have a pending assault charge. Well, but I didn't really hit her. She hit me first. That is the concern. We're unknowingly putting an individual with pending charges that has rights in a situation where they could unknowingly incriminate themselves. And I think this is just a good policy to avoid that. Again, not to the merits of the bill. It's very technical. But I think we should be looking out for the interests of not only the defendant in that case, but also the potential jurors. So again, I push the amendment, and I appreciate the bill sponsor. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Floor leader, you.
Yes, Madam Speaker. And I appreciate the good delegate's concerns. As I referred not only to Davison v. State in our case law, but also Stevenson v. State, this issue was also potentially raised. And I would also let the body know, depending on when you're actually called for jury service, by the time you actually receive your information to go to court for that, and by the time that you're actually in the case, A pending charge, someone could be in the pool right now with a pending charge, not knowing it, if the next day someone goes and places charges against them. So this is already an issue that our court system is dealing with throughout the state, regardless of this bill. And so again, I would ask this body to urge this body to resist this amendment. And there are a slew of 22 other states that actually don't have this restriction on their jury pool, and this has not been an issue. So again, I urge the body to resist the amendment. Thank you so much.
Last time, I promise.
Maker of the motion.
So right now, it's against the law. It's an automatic disqualifier. If you have pending charges, you're automatically disqualified from the jury pool, period. You're disqualified. This would change that. And again, I remind everyone that you have someone with pending charges in a jurisdiction who's now openly discussing their pending case, probably in the same jurisdiction they're going to get charged with, in front of a judge, the state, a prosecutor, defense attorneys. So again, I'll move this, and I'm done. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam
Floor
Speaker,
leader.
I just urge the body to resist the amendment.
On the amendment, all in favor signify by saying aye. Oppose?
Roll call, Madam Speaker.
Roll call.
Madam Speaker?
Clerk will take the call. The amendment fails. Are there any additional amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Special order calendar number 41. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 940, Gaming, Regulation of Fantasy Gaming Competitions and Implementation of Sports Wagering. Favor report is amended and adopted.
Should be Patterson. Is the maker of the motion here? Oh, okay. Okay. Gentlelady from Carroll and the Annex.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This was on the previous bill. I have an amendment at the desk. Amendment number, okay,
Which bill are you referencing?
260, please.
That's gone. That's gone.
Okay, I did push my button before you called that.
It didn't register on our side.
All right, thank you.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing Minority Whip.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Could we make a motion to bring that bill back for purposes of an amendment? We've done that before. It's unfortunate that our colleagues in the annex are having a hard time being heard. If she pushed the button, then we should do that to honor those folks that cannot be with us in this chamber and feel like they're not being heard.
We have a bill that's before us now. We can't do that currently.
Okay.
All right.
When this bill's finished, I'd like to bring that bill back, please.
Let's
Thank
deal
you.
with what we have in front of us right
Okay.
now.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Are there any amendments to this bill?
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the minority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We are now on House Bill 940, which is the sports betting bill, and I believe someone in the annex has communicated that they have an amendment. Thank you.
The gentleman from Western Maryland in the annex.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We've heard a lot over the past year in regards to our first responders, specifically our fire and EMS responders, and the valuable service they provide both during and prior to the pandemic. They have been referred to as heroes, and they sacrifice daily to save lives. It is in this spirit that I offer an amendment, 0940/183-220/1.
Amendment number 1.
So much be considered the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
The amendment simply states that in the awarding of Class B sports wagering and facilities licenses, the Sports Wagering Application Review Commission, 1, shall give priority to an applicant who is a nonprofit volunteer fire or rescue company in the state, and 2, may reduce or waive the application or licensing fees for this nonprofit fire and rescue company. So why is this amendment necessary? Many of us still have volunteer fire and rescue associations within our jurisdictions. They've been struggling, especially during the pandemic, as their normal means of raising funds have not been possible during this time. Our volunteer companies are valuable assets within our communities. In addition to saving lives and property, they hold annual carnivals, host bingo nights, and yes, even hold the chicken dinners. They do this not because they are forced to. They do this out of love for community, their fellow man, and in giving back to the community. Over the years, these companies have found it more and more difficult to recruit volunteers, to raise critical funds, and many of them have had to resort to paid volunteer staff to supplement the volunteer crew. This amendment recognizes the valuable service provided by our volunteers and provides a much-needed potential source of revenue for them to sustain their operations. I fully respect the amount of time that has been spent on this bill in crafting the legislation, but I do ask the body to consider this one more amendment and treat this as a friendly amendment, and I ask for its adoption. Thank you.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to the gentleman from Western Maryland, not just for offering this amendment, but sharing it with us in advance. I do want to urge the body to reject the amendment, but let me first say, like him and like the volunteer fire departments in my district, I do appreciate the 365 volunteer departments across our state of Maryland, and I want to ensure and thank the 25,000 women and men who serve us in these roles 24/7, 365. By all means, I think we could have 141 votes here to say we want to support our volunteer fire departments more. I do think, however, that this legislation is not the best way to do so. As people may know, this bill started out with 5 Class B licenses. Now there are just 10. This bill has many different policy reasons to pass, different policy priorities in terms of making money, in terms of squeezing out the illegal market, trying to provide a better product. And of course, the reason why it wasn't able to pass last year is that we did not have appropriate language to support minority and women-owned businesses in ownership of these licenses and involved in this. And I believe that this amendment would stifle those opportunities for women and other minorities. In fact, the language specifically written in his amendment said that it would give priority to the fire stations. And I think we're doing the right thing now by trying to give priority to our minority and women-owned businesses. So for those reasons, Madam Speaker, I urge the body to reject this amendment.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the gentle lady, Chairman of Appropriations.
Yeah, I want to stand and support the Ways and Means Committee and the chair and ask this body to reject this amendment. But I also want to recognize the very valid issues that the maker of this amendment has talked about. And in our COVID Relief Act, we in fact created millions of dollars to help our volunteer firefighters and our volunteer fire stations to make up for the money that they have lost by not being able to hold their chicken dinner nights and their carnivals and so on and so forth. The Ways and Means Committee did a very good job of thinking about
these very fire stations. So that was the bill that we helped them. This is a bill to not further that help. I'd ask you also to support the Ways and Means Committee chair and reject this amendment.
Madam Speaker.
Maker of the motion.
As I indicated during my testimony, I truly respect the amount of time that's been put into this bill. However, I think that this amendment does make the bill better and that it does recognize the valuable service provided by our volunteer fire and rescue companies, and therefore I press the amendment.
Recognizing the gentleman from Charles.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would ask the body to reject this amendment. I just want to clarify for my colleagues that we talk about women minority businesses. We're not pointing them out because we like them better, because we think they're extra special, or we want them to feel good. These individuals have been historically disadvantaged in contracts in this state. We're here to try to right a wrong and try to balance that playing field. That's why we didn't put veterans in this bill either. I'm the chair of the Veterans Caucus. But see, I couldn't establish that veterans were being discriminated against in business. But we do that for women. We do that for minorities. This isn't a feel-good bill. It's my hopes that it's not. That this bill has substance. Because at the end of the day, we have to level the playing field. Again, this is for historically disadvantaged individuals. We're not disregarding the value that our volunteer fire department, that our police, that our veterans have on this community. But that's not the nature of this bill. That's not the nature of the MBE goals. It's to take care of these individuals that have been overlooked in the past. So I would urge that we reject this amendment. Thank you.
Is there any further debate? On the amendment, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Noes and that.
Roll call, Madam Speaker.
Roll call.
Madam Speaker?
Clerk will take the call. The amendment fails. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Recognizing Minority Whip.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just have some questions. I was trying to ask them yesterday, but the floor leader had special ordered it before I could have that done.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. So can you tell us again how many licenses this bill as it is amended contains?
Certainly. There are 12 Class A licenses designated for certain locations.
And can you tell us what those locations are?
Sure. They are our 6 casinos, the racetracks at Laurel and Pimlico. It is potentially the 3 sports stadiums if they so desire, and also a riverboat in Charles County.
Okay.
There are 10 Class B licenses that would be competitive, and then 15 online licenses that anyone is open to. Anyone who is Class A, Class B, and honestly, someone who doesn't have an A or B could also apply for the...
And what is a Class B? You said 10 Class B?
10 Class B licenses. We are trying to find an appropriate number to allow both for competition, create a space for minority and women business enterprises.
So Class B would be current off-track betting sites, or what is a Class B? Anybody who wants to be a Class B can?
You and I could retire tomorrow and have the Shalega Kaiser business and apply for one of these.
Sounds like a plan. And the 15, the floor leader yesterday said mobile, so those are mobile/online applications.
Yes, correct. Mobile would be the better word. Yes, thank you.
Okay, and what were the fees? I noticed in the bill, original bill, it had a fee of $50,000, and that was that language was stricken out. So what did I not read that right? What are the current fees that Class A, B, and
but
mobiles?
I'll tell you that the fees for the Class A, B, and online were unchanged by the subcommittee or the full committee. What you might be referring to is at the beginning of the bill dealing with the fantasy competitions. But to give you the fees for Class A, it's the application fee is $250,000 with a $50,000 annual fee. For the Class B, presuming smaller places, generally 50,000 application fee, 10,000 for each of the next 5 years, and then for a mobile license, 500,000 with 100,000 for 5 years. And the idea behind that is that the mobile license is where more of the money will be made, so we made those fees higher.
Okay, and why did the committee not elect to open this more broadly to a more, I guess unlimited or a higher number of licenses? So we've got 22 brick and mortar locations in 24 jurisdictions. Why did you pick that number of 22?
Delegate, there's not an exact science to some of this. There was agreement that the original numbers that we gave were possibly too small to serve our policy needs of both making money and providing that opportunities for women and minority-owned businesses. There's always also the concern of having too many, and there could be an issue with oversaturation. But as you and I both know, second week of January next year, we're back here on the second Wednesday of the year, and if we all find the need next year or the year after to increase locations, we'd certainly be able to.
Okay, and the last question, I was listening when the floor leader went through the amendments and introduced the bill, and she said moving money to the, and this isn't the right word, but my shorthand chicken scratch says gambling fund instead of blueprint. So why did we take money out of the blueprint and put it in any other location besides the blueprint?
Thank you for that question. So right now the Problem Gambling Fund gets about $5 million a year based on a formula based on the number of VLTs in the state and the number of table games. And there was a thought when the discussion came up about unclaimed winnings from online betting. We don't imagine that that will be a very large number. And there was agreement within the subcommittee who spent a lot of time on this to say, you know what, we think that money should go to this Problem Gambling Fund. So it's just the unclaimed wagers. We don't expect that to be a great deal of money. And again, like I said, if we can change a provision like that in the future if we think it's sending too much. But it's just that unclaimed piece that's not going to the blueprint.
And how much will the gambling fund get? Is there any estimate on that? Because obviously problem gambling is a problem.
Unfortunately, we don't know. Again, they get about $5 million a year, and I think they haven't had to spend the full $5 million, so they have some of that money. But if there's no way to know how many unclaimed wagers there will be, and so again, the committee thought it was worthwhile to send that to the Problem Gambling Fund. If we determine that that ends up being 5, 10, 15 million or some really large number, but I think they're imagining it just being a few 100,000. So that's the rationale. Obviously, we can all disagree, but that's the rationale for that piece.
Okay, well, thank you for the time to explain this bill to those of us that are not on your committee.
Sure.
Is there any further debate or any amendments to the additional amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Quorum call.
Madam Speaker?
Clerk will take the call. There being 137 members present, the House is still in session. Calendar of third reading, House Bills number 32. Clerk, read the first bill.
House Bill 314, Plastic Bag Reduction Act.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? The gentleman from Carroll in the annex.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You know, I subscribe to the theory that too much simple country lawyer is a bad thing. I think my wife would agree with that. So I tried to only rise to speak on things that either pique my interest or when I find something particularly offensive. And this bill falls into both those categories, I gotta say. Now, I know there are a lot of environmentally woke people down here, so it's in honor of you all that I'm going to recycle here this morning. I'm going to recycle some lines from some other speeches I've given. You know, as I was shoveling the global warming up in Carroll County last month, and you know, we had a lot of it up there this year, it occurred to me that environmentalism is the new religion of the left. I get that. I mean, it's certainly not my bag, but I get that. But it's an inconvenient truth, Madam Speaker, that we are still dealing with this pandemic. Because of the actions of the Peter Principle personified across the street, our restaurants are still, a year later, at least up until yesterday, I guess, only operating at 50% capacity. Many of our restaurants have closed for good over the last year. In the little town where I live, we've lost 3 restaurants in the last 3 months. And all this bill will do is pile on, adding to restaurants' already besieged bottom lines by driving up their cost at the most inopportune time. And those styrofoam containers, by the way, that we've banned, and these plastic bags, which are the subject of this bill, really come in handy when everybody's doing carryout. In the city of Baltimore, they had instituted a bag ban, which Mayor Scott suspended, saying, quote, "At a time when people are hurting, both our residents who are out of work and local businesses, it's just simply not responsible to implement this right now." Other jurisdictions, the state of Maine, Washington, the city of Philadelphia, have done the same thing. Stores and restaurants have banned reusable bags because they could be carrying COVID. Now, my wife tells me that these reusable bags are nasty. And you don't have to take her word for it. The University of Arizona and Loma Linda University in California discovered the presence of coliform bacteria in 51% of the 84 reusable grocery bags tested, with E. coli present in 8%. Single-use plastic bags don't carry that risk. Now, these reusable bags that this bill seeks to promote are usually made in either China or Vietnam. The bags targeted by this bill are made in the U.S., including by 160 employees at a facility in Howard County. The fiscal note for this particular bill characterized the impact on small businesses as being, quote, significant. In 2019, large grocery stores in Maryland reported more than $200,000 per year in increased costs per store when a plastic bag ban is implemented. And since right now there is a shortage of paper bags, and that shortage is expected to last for several years, these costs will be even higher. And who will ultimately bear that burden? The consumer. It will be one more tax hike passed along to the citizens of Maryland by this legislature. And there is another fundamental reason, though, that I would point out that this bill should be sacked. It's not going to do anything to clean up the environment. Plastic bags make up 0.3% of the nation's municipal waste, and only 1% of the beach cleanup material in Maryland. And I think that's because in my house, every wastebasket has a liner that says Weiss or Walmart on it. And I think that's repeated in households throughout the state. Madam Speaker, this bill is little more than a pig in a poke. I'll be voting no. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Floor Leader.
Madam Speaker, thank you. And thank you, Delegate in the annex. Here's what's offensive. For the last 50 years, we created a product for convenience. And we've used that convenience for the last 50 years. The offense is that this convenience doesn't go away. It doesn't degrade. It doesn't go away. It doesn't go away. It doesn't disappear. We can burn it, we can landfill it. But the reality is, it's every waste system's nightmare. It is the top 5 item on a beach cleanup. Between the Chesapeake Beach, between different organizations and municipalities and counties across the state, what we're saying is that this plastic is one of many offenses to our locations that doesn't go away. And so what this is a beginning of a customer recall of a product that is dangerous. And quite frankly, it feels NIMBY. I get it. You know, he talked about environmentalism. That's great. I get it. I get what it feels like. But the reality is as of August last year, 2020, 74 countries have instituted a ban. Another 37 countries have instituted a fee so that they can reduce this unnecessary waste. And I get it. It's convenient. It's convenient to get a plastic bag at the grocery store and not bring your own. It's convenient to come home and have something to put your pet litter in and to line your trash bags. But the reality is that we created an indestructible product that has pretty much inundated the world, and no one knows what to do with it. And so the way that we're doing something with it is by, unfortunately, for those who enjoy the convenience, is that we have to reduce the use. If we don't reduce the use, we'll continue to be in a crisis. Whether you want to believe it or not, they say by 2050 that there will be more plastic in the ocean by weight of fish, pound per pound, because we don't know what to do with this stuff. It's washing up on beaches, it is in our waters, and thinking about other countries, they tend to bear the burden of all of this waste. In 2002, Bangladesh got rid of this. They banned this, and they still struggle with it because it's a modern day convenience that is killing us, and it doesn't go away. I urge you to vote green on this, not because I don't want you to have the convenience. It's because this stuff doesn't go away. we don't know what to do with it, and it's important that we start reducing it so we don't bear the burden, even more so than we'd have now, 50 years later, for another 10, 20, 30 years. Thank you.
Madam Speaker.
The gentleman from Western Maryland in the annex.
Good morning, Madam Speaker. Oh,
Good morning.
sorry, I had to close the door. All right, good morning, Madam Speaker and
Good morning.
delegates. This is an important bill. It's not just a matter of convenience. If we ban these plastic bags, do we think these plastic bags will just disappear? No, they're going to continue to be used in people's homes. I was just searching online at livegreen.recyclebank.com. And they're talking about soft plastics and how you really can't put those in the regular recycling bin. That's absolutely true. So what are soft plastics? Well, it's grocery and carry-out bags. They describe it as newspaper delivery bags, dry cleaning wraps, bread and produce bags, zipper food storage bags, Ziploc, plastic cereal box liners, case wrap, shipping packaging. You know, do we want to ban all this? Are we going to come back next year and ban the rest of this list? You know, it's interesting, this recycling website, you know, I've been told in our committee, we can't recycle these. These are unrecyclable. All you can do is when you turn them in to the store, they're going to ship them out somewhere in Texas, and it's going to be used for burned energy. Well, at least we're getting energy out of it, but actually you can recycle these. This website says that once these plastic bags and wraps are collected and shipped to the proper recycling facilities, they are turned into backyard fencing, fences, playground equipment, pipes, pallets, crates, and even new plastic bags. I would encourage us to vote against this bill, which is really in search of a problem. We're going to have these plastic bags unless we come back and ban cereal and cereal boxes and the liners inside. I don't think that's practical. I think, especially with the COVID situation right now, we can all see that we need to have cleanliness, so we need to use these types of plastic bags. You know, even in the bill, there's an exception that you can use these types of plastic bags when you get your fruits and vegetables, or if you're at a fruit stand. You know, let's just let the free market work. Let people use this. We can recycle these materials. People are recycling them right now. I urge a red vote. Thank you.
Madam Speaker.
Gentleman from Caroline.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think it's important in this world of fact-checking that we all understand what the true facts are here. And I'm reading a report. It's a 2018 report from the International Coastal Cleanup and the Ocean Conservancy, the USA International Coastal Cleanup results. And plastic bags aren't even in the top 10, and I'll read the top 10 here. Cigarette butts is number 1, food wrappers is number 2, and they have a picture of a piece of candy there. Plastic bottle caps is 3, plastic beverage bottles is number 4, beverage cans, then straws, glass beverage bottles. Oh, I'm sorry, I do apologize, number 8. So it's number 8. Plastic grocery bags is number 8. Metal bottle caps is number 9, and other plastic foam packaging, which we've already banned. So I'm going to join in the argument that we've already heard previously here. So we have 7 items or 7 categories that's above plastic bags that we've yet to ban in the state of Maryland. So if we're going to be consistent, I certainly don't want to give any of y'all any ideas, any future bills. But the point here is that we're going to create a huge inconvenience, and that's correct. Plastic bags are a convenience, and we've already heard they're used for multi-purposes as well, more than just carrying groceries home from the grocery store. So we're going to create a major inconvenience for both businesses and homeowners and families all across the state by banning number 8 on the list. It just doesn't make any sense. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the gentlelady from Howard County. In the annex.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I won't even argue with what the sponsor has said about plastic bags, but what I do object to is going too far. In Howard County, we have been charging 5 cents for a plastic bag, and I will tell you it has made a huge difference. I stopped that day because I have a lot of my own bags. Sometimes I'll just put the stuff in the cart and take it out and throw it in the back of the cart like we do at BJ's. That is a way that gives people a choice, and I was delighted actually when we passed that because it helps me to remember to bring my own bags. And finally, on a rare occasion, I think only once since we have passed that law have I decided I'd go ahead and get a few plastic bags, and that is because they serve a very important function in my house. I use them to collect all of the kitty litter and put it in the garbage cans, and I will be very disappointed if I don't have those to use in that fashion anymore. Thank you.
The gentleman from Hartford.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We've talked about a few things during this discussion, and one of the things we talk about, and I can't speak to the science whether or not these bags are going to go away, but one thing I think we can all agree on that's going away are grocery stores in some of our low-income communities. And grocery stores already operate on such a small margin, and we talk about convenience, and I think it's an inconvenient truth that this is happening, that we're losing these grocery stores in these low-income neighborhoods. And everything we do, from taxes to eliminating plastic bags and efficiencies for these grocery stores, continues to not encourage them to open up or reopen in these communities that so desperately need the convenience of having a grocery store in their community. And so I'm deeply concerned about that. And one more comment about the practicality of having these grocery bags, these plastic bags in our homes. We talk about kitty litter or for trash. My family, we use them for baby diapers. And it's a great resource for us to be able to change my son, throw one of those diapers in a bag, and then throw it directly outside. So these bags get used, at least in my house. They never get thrown away or tossed aside or thrown outside. Every single one we get gets used, and Marylanders, for a variety of reasons, use these. So between the uses of these bags and, more importantly, trying to allow the best we can these grocery stores every opportunity to stay in these low-income communities or to reopen these low-income communities, I urge a red vote in this bill. Thank you.
Floor Leader.
I take great exception to that comment that somehow grocery stores disappear in low-income areas because someone has to bring their own bag or may have to pay 5 cents for them. As you should know, if you've done your research a little more, a lot of those stores in low-income areas have been charging for bags for decades already. They've already been paying. So thank you for that. And Madam Speaker, I'd like to yield to the chair of the committee.
Committee Chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Our committee is not aware of a single municipal recycling facility in Maryland that can handle plastic bags. Let me repeat that, not a single one. These items are non-recyclable for all practical purposes. Second, Madam Speaker, I think it's important to recognize that many of these lists that rank waste do it by weight. And I will grant to you, although it is one of the most pernicious forms of pollution, it is very light, and so it tends to go to the bottom of lists. This is pretty distorting, because where do those plastic bags typically end up? Well, up until recently in Montgomery County, I would see them at the side of the road. I'd see them in trees. I'd see them in back alleys. They were pernicious and really very difficult to get rid of until Montgomery County and some other jurisdictions began the process of either banning or discouraging the use of single-use plastic bags. And I think that's the most important phrase that you have to capture. It's true, some people do reuse these plastic bags in some instances, but for the most part, these are single-use products. They end up in incinerators, they end up in landfills, and most especially, they end up at the side of the road. Now, I know some people think that reusable bags are gross. Well, mine aren't. I guess you have to be a little careful in the use of these reusable bags. But the fact of the matter is, in the jurisdictions that have either banned or discouraged plastic bag usage, the amount of litter, the amount of garbage, and the ugliness associated with them has pretty much disappeared overnight. And for that reason, I would ask you to once again, as we did last year, pass this legislation. I look forward to it passing the Senate this time because we won't be COVID shortened. And again, I just think this is a sensible litter and garbage reduction measure that everyone in the state of Maryland will benefit from. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The gentleman from Cecil County in the annex.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Would the floor leader or the committee chair yield for some technical questions?
Floor leader.
Yes, Delegate.
So just some background here. I was actually one of the folks that got to lead up the Green the Capitol initiative. This was a little over a decade ago, where Capitol Hill transitioned fully to compostable materials. This is for clamshells, basically prohibition on petroleum-based polymers, which are commonly referred to as plastics. However, there is a subcategory which is considered compostable plastics, and those are made from plant-based polymers. Much to my chagrin, when I looked at the fiscal note of this bill, I saw in here, and I'll read you the line, that a plastic carryout bag includes a compostable plastic. Is that still part of the prohibition, the way the bill's written?
Yes.
Okay, so if the goal of this bill is to get rid of these plastic bags that we see in trees and floating around and on the side of the road, as the last speaker alluded to, why would we be excluding compostable bags?
Well, Delegate, it's because this is the Plastic Bag Reduction Act. And if we can reduce the waste, we can reduce the bags we see, as the chair said, on the side of the road, helping municipalities be able to manage it because they cannot manage it. And quite frankly, as you see, the bill makes a couple of exceptions, but the point of this bill, the point of this movement is that we're trying to reduce the amount of plastic and plastic bags that has crippled this state in more ways than others.
Okay, fair enough. Second question, if I may. The fiscal note also makes reference, and I do appreciate definitions because definitions are great for clarity on what is allowed and what isn't. It makes specific reference to, I believe it's a 4 mil as the specification on a bag, so less than 4 mils. Is that still accurate?
That is still accurate. So yes, 4 mils and below.
So
or mil, sorry, there's no S, it's just a mil.
4 mil, yep. Mm-hmm. Okay, so with that, and that was my last question, but I'd like to make a few statements here. I don't believe that the bill in its current posture is ready for prime time. And I say that for 2 reasons. One, compostable bags not only create a sustainable industry for good actors, companies that want to create disposable products that actually are able to return back to the environment and pose no pollution threats. 2, the specific language that refers to the thickness of the bag. As we know, manufacturers, as soon as this bill passes, will most likely make a bag that is at that 4 mil limit, because right now it states less than. So I think that there's good intentions with this bill. However, I can't support it in its current posture because I think it goes against the environmental initiatives that are set forth, and that's why I'll be putting up a red vote. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
Committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Compostable products have to be put in specific composting facilities. There aren't very many of those. But what happens when you take a compostable material and put it in a landfill? Well, probably it turns into methane, which is an even more dangerous greenhouse gas than CO2. And for those reasons, the bill is certainly ready for prime time. Let's please pass it.
The gentlelady from Anne Arundel in the annex. The gentleman from Baltimore County in the annex.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wanted to rise briefly to support what I heard from the good gentleman from Harford County, and that's the cumulative effect of all these taxes, the fees, the increased cost of labor on our supermarkets around the state. And he is absolutely right. We've heard it again several times already this session about how it's just one more cup of coffee. How many times have we heard that in the last 7 years? For the price of one cup of coffee, we're going to save the world. Man, we are smashing our own people. And the creation of food deserts is very real. And it's not just certain communities, it's everywhere now. In Dundalk, a few years ago, it was the bottle tax. And we lost Santoni's, who had been there for 80 years. And then the increased cost of business. We lost Mars Supermarkets, who had been there for decades. We didn't lose one, we lost all of them. Now it's Gershbeck's in Old Dundalk, an old family, a Polish family supermarket located between the Port of Baltimore and Sparrows Point, adjacent to a giant row home community, a senior living center, Turner Station, Water's Edge. And these businesses, when the minimum wage increase hit, they said, we can't do it anymore. And these aren't like businesses out in the middle of nowhere. These are businesses adjacent to thousands of homes. And I think it's really unfair for us to say, well, it's just food deserts, like it's a real desert, except instead of not having water, you just don't have a supermarket. When we lose a business, it's because they cannot economically sustain themselves to stay there. And we're not talking about steel plants anymore. We're talking about places that sell food in communities with tens of thousands of people. So then it was the bottle tax. Today it was, we're going to eliminate plastic bags. And it's hitting everywhere. It's hitting working class, blue collar communities. And it's really unfortunate. And I think every time we stand up and say, well, this is just one little increase of cost. You got to remember, these companies have very slim margins. And every time we hit them with a new expense, it gets them that much closer to going out of business. And I would urge the body not to make up snappy one-liners like food deserts. And remember, the body that's really forcing cost onto our mom-and-pop businesses, which are really, they used to be all over the place when I was young. What mom-and-pop businesses are in our communities anymore? In southeastern Baltimore County, we barely have any mom-and-pop businesses, let alone mom-and-pop supermarkets or restaurants. It's really sad. So that's why I'll be voting against this bill today, and I hope we keep this in mind for the future. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Gentleman from Caroline.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just want to follow up on a couple things that committee chair had mentioned. On that list, I just remind folks that cigarette butts is number 1 and plastic wrappers is number 2, and they're pretty light. They're actually much lighter than a plastic bag. And 2, in regards to methane gas, I would argue that Taco Bell actually indirectly produces more methane gas than plastic bags do. So thank you.
The gentleman from Talbot in the annex.
Thank you, Speaker. And I just want to follow up on the comments that were shared by the gentleman from Baltimore County. Our district is extremely environmentally sensitive. And since I was a child, we talked about styrofoam and plastic bags and the damage that they do to the environment. Remember it very well in middle school. I remember it very well in high school. It's not a new issue, and no one can deny it's something that needs to be addressed. The problem I have with this bill, and it's something I hope everybody recognizes, is that it's unfair, it's inequitable in the way it's going to apply. You know, the big box stores, the chain, the smaller chain stores that have got HR departments and corporate headquarters and things like that, they're not only going to be able to handle this, they're going to find a way to make money off of it. They're going to profit. The big box stores are going to profit from the plastic bag ban. So be it, right? That's free enterprise. I get that. And we're going to pay for it, right? Because we want the environment to be better. I mean, that's the way things seem to work in this world. But when you put a ban in across the board, you got to remember there's an impact. And this bill is going to hurt small businesses. It is going to hurt them. There is a store in my district named Hopkins Sales that has pictures of representatives that have done things to hurt their business hanging in their store. I know that because I go in there to buy products. These bills have real consequences, and they are crushing the mom and pop stores in our state, the small and independent businesses. I've been going home a lot during virtual legislating, so I see a lot of people and I talk to a lot of people. I mean, the news yesterday that all state employees are getting a $1,000 bonus, my phone lit up, okay? They lit up, and with people that were furious. They were small business people that have worked every day through this pandemic, that are still trying to survive today. They are furious about what's going on in the state right now. The timing of this couldn't be worse. I agree we need to do something about plastic bags, but to do something to address pollution in this manner, okay, and hurt a part of our community that's already hurting makes no sense. The big box stores, these chain small stores, they're pumping plastic bags out as quick as the customers come in. Right? So it makes sense. And they've got a plan to deal with it. But the people, the businesses, the ones that were affected, that don't have a plan, that don't have the ability, they're the ones that are getting snuffed out. And they're too busy to come up here and lobby. They're too busy to sign up to try to get in to testify 2 days before a hearing to explain what a problem is, even if they could make the cut. Okay? And they feel cut out.
Gentlemen, is this on the bill?
Yes. It's unfortunate, but I oppose this bill, and I hope everybody else will also, on behalf of your small businesses and your independent businesses.
Madam Speaker.
The gentleman from Cal.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise in opposition to this bill. Really, to me, this is something that we could probably frame pretty simply, and that is innovation versus banning. Republicans believe in innovating to effect change. And the modern Democrat Party believes in banning. Let's just do away with it. But instead, all we have to do is provide incentives, maybe to the University of Maryland College Park, maybe to Hopkins. We've got these great research institutions in this state, and ask them to find a solution or a number of solutions. That's called innovation. That is uniquely American. What's not uniquely American is banning, like banning books. So I must say, when we hear single-use products must be banned, single-use plastics from the chairman of the committee, Where do you think that's going to go? This bill only covers just some of them. Next will be single-use plastic bottles in hotel rooms for shampoo. Single-use items at Chick-fil-A and McDonald's and Burger King that have ketchup in them. How terrible. Is it a problem? Yes. As a Republican, I acknowledge it's a problem. But as a Republican, I want to innovate to fix these things so that they can be recycled. We heard from the chairman of the committee, we don't have a recycling facility in Maryland. So let's get one. Let's get one. Let's innovate. Let's fix the problem. Another thing I love to hear is the virtue signaling from the left. And here's the virtue signaling. Plastic bags, when they find themselves on the ground, go into waterways. I think that's true too, by the way. Except for one thing. They don't find themselves on the ground. Someone put it there. Someone put it there. And there's this thing that we have on our side of the aisle called personal responsibility, in that when you have plastic or any kind of trash, whatever it is, you put it in the recycling bin, and if it can't be recycled, you put it in the trash can. But apparently, that is lost amongst the left right now. The idea that people have a responsibility to put their trash in the trash can or the recycling bin. So instead, they say, oh, it just finds itself there. It just happened to get there. No, it didn't. It got there because someone put it there and because we need to enforce the littering laws. That would be a first start, and the second start would be innovation. But quite frankly, if I were a company that innovated, I wouldn't come to this state. Because the tax, the way they treat you, of course. But we have an opportunity to amend the bill to fix it, to innovate. There's no better example, in my mind, than my hometown, and I'll say this clearly, so you don't come back and say, oh, you're criticizing it. I love Baltimore. I'm from there, raised there. I love it. I represent Calvert County. But it killed me when Scott Pressler, in late 2019, went to Baltimore multiple times to clean up trash in West Baltimore. And it was all over the place. And it wasn't just plastic bags. It was everything. All kinds of trash. All over the streets. And it needed to be cleaned up. And here's someone who's from the state of Virginia who called attention to the problem. And remarkably, the community rallied around him. They rallied around him. And they helped him. Because someone showed the initiative to actually clean up a community and care about its well-being. But the Baltimore Sun, you can always rely on the Baltimore Sun. The journalists at the Baltimore Sun, who must be 15 years old and don't have a brain, I'm sorry, that's where they are today. Here's what they wrote. Here's what they wrote. But if this was all about Americans helping Americans, then why did Scott Pressler post so many videos about Baltimore residents thanking him for bringing attention to the issue? We happen to know that not everybody in West Baltimore feels the same way. That's the Baltimore Sun. Can you imagine? That's what they talk about. So, Madam Speaker, I am on the bill. I know that's where you're going. And I do love the city of Baltimore. And I say to myself, there's so many things we can do to improve that city. And the idea that we have to constantly ban things and that we have this environmental extremism that's saying, no, don't use plastics, use paper bags. Well, guess what? You're the ones that shut down the paper mills in Western Maryland. You shut them down. So now they're in China, and so are the jobs. And in China, ladies and gentlemen, you know what they don't care about? They don't care about the environment. So you were actually pollution shifting by passing this bill. Shifting the pollution from this state, where it can be controlled and managed, to a country that could care less about the environment. You know it's true, and I know it's true. So yes, we can use paper bags. Of course we can. But I'm sure that'll be the next thing that you ban. Because banning doesn't take, in my opinion, any great thought whatsoever for making bills. You know what takes thought? Innovating and really changing the way we do things through innovation.
and challenging people to adopt that innovation. And for all those reasons, Madam Speaker, I'm voting against this bill. Thank you very much.
Madam Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We've heard a lot of vitriol today, attacks on China and on our state employees who well deserve that $1,000 bonus for all the work they've been putting in on behalf of Marylanders, including the state troopers who are in the chamber with us today, and on liberals and Democrats and really all sorts of things. But none of those are what this bill's about. They're not. I mean, if you believe the government shouldn't ban plastic bags, okay, vote against the bill. These arguments are, look, I have spent my entire life and then spending time in the natural world. I love being outside. I grew up as a Boy Scout. One of the things I love about this state, one of the things I love about Maryland is it's America in miniature. And I've seen plastic bags floating down Swallow Falls in Garrett County, and I've seen them in the waters off Janes Island in Somerset County, and I've seen them in the Susquehanna Flats, and I've seen them off North Point. I've seen them in cities and alleys. They are bad for the environment. The easiest way to get rid of them is to ban them. And Maryland has, for generations, prided itself on protecting the natural environment. So, Madam Speaker, I believe we should save the Bay, and I believe that's what this bill helps do. I'm proud to vote green. Thank you to the committee for their hard work on this bill.
The gentleman from Howard County from the gallery.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I appreciate the opportunity to talk in this very awesome box today. I want to talk about cause and effect, because everything we do here has a cause and effect. So the delegate from Howard County, I live in Howard County, also said that there is a 5-cent tax on our bags in Howard County. That's great. Some people will bring their bag to the store. I shop somewhere else now. I don't shop in Howard County anymore, unfortunately. That has made me shop in Anne Arundel, on Fort Meade Commissary, for example. Makes me shop up in Carroll County. So I was up in Carroll County shopping, and the family in front of us said the exact same thing. They said, we're from Montgomery County, and on the weekends we drive to Carroll County because we don't want to pay the 5-cent tax or whatever they have in Montgomery County. So I just want to say everything has cause and effect. So what is this going to do for us? This is going to help other states that border us. You know, in a lot of our counties border other states. They will have more income where they want to go across state lines and shop there. I will also mention that there are about a dozen companies that produce these bags within Maryland alone, to include the American Plastics Company in Beltsville. So I'm assuming this is only going to hurt our businesses here, push more economic driving factors to other states around us, and I am also voting against this. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
Gentlelady from Baltimore City.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move the previous question.
Question before the House is to move the previous question. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? Not, the clerk will take the call. There being 97 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 314, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 777, Power Plant Research Program, review of application for certificate of public convenience and necessity alterations.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 99 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 777, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Report of the Committee on Economic Matters, report number 16. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 842, electric companies billing information, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1317, barbers, employment of apprentice barbers, alterations, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Okay. Introduction of House Bill during the last 35 days of session. Did the gentlelady from Hagerstown in the annex?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I didn't bring my bill with me, actually, but I was told it's late. So I'm blaming it on my Senator Quarterman.
Okay. The question before the House is, shall the bill be introduced? It requires 95 votes. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? So the clerk will take the call. There being 138 votes in the affirmative, the bill will be introduced. The clerk will read the bill and the committee assignment.
House Bill 1379, Delegate Cham, House Rules.
Will the standing committee chairs please come forward? Standing committee chairs only.
It's a month on Saturday. Yeah, that's what I said.
We will be coming back at 5:30 today. That ends the work at the desk. All committee bill hearings are listed on the Maryland General Assembly website. Quorum call before adjournment.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their presence? The clerk will take the call. There being 140 members present, the House is still in session. Recognizing the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House stand recessed until Wednesday, March 10th at 5:30 p.m., Legislative Day, March 2nd.